Hey, today we're going to talk about a combination of a couple of our conditional statements, and they create what we call a biconditional statement. So our regular conditional statements were if-then statements, and these biconditional statements are if and only if statements, and they are a combination of the original conditional and its converse. So for example, if we have an original conditional, if Ashley earns $15 an hour, then she works over 40 hours a week. Its converse is if she works over 40 hours a week, then Ashley earns $15 an hour. We can sort of combine those two ideas and create what's called the biconditional. Notice there's no if at the beginning, and there's not going to be a then in here. In between the P and Q is going to be this if and only if. And that's sort of going to say that you could read this sentence backwards and forwards. So the regular conditional is true, and the converse is also true. Ashley earns $15 an hour if and only if she works over 40 hours a week. And to represent that if and only if, we use this sort of two-wayed arrow. So a regular conditional was just a regular arrow to the right like this. This is the if-then. Our if and only if is the arrow going both ways. So if we're given a conditional like if x is greater than 9, then x is greater than 0, we can write its converse by switching P and Q, and then we can write the biconditional. So essentially it's the original the original conditional statement. We get rid of the if and then, so these sort of go away, and instead we put if and only if between P and Q. So let's try another one. Here's our original statement. If two angles are complementary, then their sum is 90. So we could get rid of the if and then we need to put an if and only if between them. So I asked you also to do the converse. There's the converse, which we've been working on. To write the biconditional, its two angles are complementary if and only if their sum is 90 degrees. So we get rid of the if and then we put in this if and only if between the hypothesis and conclusion. So go ahead, pause here and try this one. So I want you to write the converse. We switch the P and Q to get if you pause to do this problem, then you are listening. To get the biconditional, we get rid of the if and the then. In between you are listening and you pause to do this problem, we put if and only if. So we can use this and ask in a different way. If I give you the biconditional, the if and only if statement, then I can ask you to write the original conditional and then the converse. So we find that a calculator will run is our P. It has batteries is our Q. So we should say if a calculator will run, then it has batteries. That's the conditional statement. To get the converse, we just switch the P and Q and say if it has batteries, then a calculator will run. So essentially here, we haven't talked very much about truth value, if at all, but both the conditional and the converse should make sense, because in order to write a biconditional, they both have to be true statements. So let's try another one. We're going to have to get rid of the if and only if. Two lines intersect is our P. They are not vertical is our Q. So to write the conditional, we put the if-then back in there. If two lines intersect, then they are not vertical. And then we can write the converse by switching P and Q. If they are not vertical, then two lines intersect. So pause here and give this one a shot. Two angles are congruent is our P. They have the same measure is our Q. We're going to get rid of if and only if, because now we're going to write the regular conditional. So we put our if then back in there to get if two angles are congruent, then they have the same measure. And we can change P and Q to get the converse. If they have the same measure, then two angles are congruent. And you should think that the conditional and converse they both make sense because they're both true. Two angles that are congruent have the same measure, and two angles that have the same measure are congruent. So I've got two for you to do. I gave you a conditional, I want you to write the biconditional. And this one I gave you a biconditional and I want you to write the converse. So give those a try, make sure you submit them on the UDO form, and we'll chat about them in class.